Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the witnesses for testifying today, and particularly appreciate the occasional reference to my hometown of Flint. I'm sure my colleagues may have heard me mention my home community from time to time. And listening to the conversation, there was a reference to the fact that these changes take time, and even in the U.S. labor movement, it took some time, but it took more than time. You know, a quick lesson in Flint labor history would remind folks that in 1936, 1937, when the workers occupied the factories in the sit-down strike, there was an effort to remove those workers from the factory. In fact, there was a battle, the Battle of the Running Bulls, with the Flint police going after the workers. And Governor Frank Murphy sent in the National Guard, many thought, to remove those workers from the factory. And actually, the National Guard showed up to protect the workers. My point is that it takes more than just the letter of the law. It takes a government that is willing to take significant steps to enforce the laws on the books. And in the case of the 1937 sit-down strike, February 11, when we finally got that agreement, had it not been for the fact that Governor Frank Murphy, who later ended up on the U.S. Supreme Court, by the way, sent in the National Guard to protect those workers, took decisive action. So what I'm concerned about is not just what it says in the letter of the law, but what the commitment is of the government to take the steps that are required in order to enforce the law and to protect workers. So I guess starting maybe with Mr. Shaken, if you could comment. When Ambassador Lighthizer was before us, I asked him about working with us to help protect American auto workers. Absent additional either language in an agreement or additional measures, how much confidence do you have that the agreement as written would protect American auto workers?
That the agreement as written would. In fact, the most perfect language in the agreement is essential, but not enough. It all depends on what happens in Mexico.
Right.
I think the commitment of the government is strong. I think the initial actions are positive, but the forces arrayed against it are very powerful and not about to walk away. The corrupt existing official union structure, corporations that benefit from this. And there's actually a third factor. Mexico has weak institutions in this area. The state capacity itself must be built. That's a tall order. The World Justice Project, an initiative of the president of the American Bar Association, came out with their 2019 report on the court system. Mexico ranked 99th out of 126 global countries, below Uzbekistan, Guatemala, and Sierra Leone. Now, there will be new courts created that are central to the reform. What is their prognosis? So my feeling is this can be done. I believe the Mexican government seriously wants to do it. It's in their interest to do it. It creates a consumer-led society in Mexico if workers are paid more. But the best leverage we could put into that mix is to make it the precondition, not what happens after the agreement is ratified.
Yeah, and I guess that's the real focus of some of my concern, because obviously at one point or another we're going to have this binary choice between the existing North American Free Trade Agreement and this new agreement. But the question is, at what point do we have confidence that the Mexican government is going to take the necessary steps? So I guess with the remaining time, perhaps Ms. Cisneros and Ms. Feingold briefly comment on where do you think we should be placing that threshold moment? What is the proof point for us? Not just when the laws are passed, but what is the proof point for us when we feel confident that implementation will be robust and enforcement will be strong?
Because so much of this centers on precisely that political will, it is our belief that there are current cases, some of them I outlined in my testimony, where the government could very positively intervene to send the right kind of messages and begin to have a more proactive approach to how it will enforce freedom of association. Workers need to be able to bargain to change the rules of the game in Mexico. So if they were to take a serious look at some of those outstanding cases and apply some of the current law mixed with some of the new provisions, that could set a very important precedent for how this moves forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.